I was built to last. I was built to last. With the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past. With all I'm achieving, got my foot on gas. Never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna end.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are to me, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quite so thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic. Go! To last with the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah. I've been doing this, I'm on it. I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this topic, yeah. If I ever play, I want it. You know that I'm always honest. Stay away from those who are toxic. Keep them out your face, no way, you don't want them, yeah. Don't try to drain my energy. The enemy is everything. It's mentally, unhealthily, spreading like a rare disease. But I won't let it get to me. I don't need your therapy. I can leave a legacy of leading by intensity. Come on, we can fight this. Freedom is priceless. Spread just like a virus. Living in a crisis. Do you feel courageous? Do you seek greatness? Trust me, you can take it. Go on and take your aim. I was built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah.
What up? Oh, it is a Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon. I think it just rolled into afternoon right as I was saying that. I am Jeremy Green of ESPN Radio Asheville and NFLDraft.net, which is coming along just smoothly. And as you can tell, there's no Tank here today either. I'm gonna start this with just kind of some information. I don't know when we will be getting back to ESPN radio shows. I'm just not sure. I don't. I would, if I had the information, I'd give it to you, but I don't. He's having a procedure done right now. I don't really want to get too much into that, but all the T's and P's for Mr. Spencer that he will be back and better than ever. Hopefully in the next few days. That's about all I got. So, yesterday during the live stream, this live stream will not be all that long. I'm having a little bit of technical issues. So we're going to mock the mock here, and then we're going to do another live stream this evening. In the chat, feel free. What time would a live stream work best for you guys? It'll have to be after 7 o'clock. Beyond that, that doesn't really matter to me. And I'll do some answering of questions and more drafty things. I'm tired. It's been a lot of mock drafts. It's been a lot of sitting in this chair and trying to get logistics done. Tank's injury has been it's been a lot, and So T's and P's to Tank. I don't know exactly when he will return, but I'm here. So Daniel Jeremiah's mock. I'm going to share a link to that in the chat so we can all follow along with it. I tried to put it on the screen, but that was part of my technical issues today. I can't get it to go up. NFL Network must have a block to where you can't put it on the screen and scroll it. So I could show you like 3 picks at a time, then I'd have to go back and completely reload it. DJ put out his first mock. Look, Daniel Jeremiah is one of the best mock drafters in the world. So if he says something in a mock, I think you have to at least give it a little bit of credence. So we start with number one. Number one, he's got Abdul Carter. I'm starting to think that that's becoming almost a foregone conclusion that's where Tennessee will go at 1. I don't think it deserves much because we've talked about it so much. I do think Abdul Carter is going to be the number 1 pick in this draft. Where things get a little sideways with this is he goes Cam Ward at 2. I don't believe Cleveland's taking a quarterback. I don't believe they're in love with either of these quarterbacks. Now, that could change as the process goes along. But I look at Cleveland and what they still have pot committed on Deshaun Watson. I don't think a quarterback can succeed with what you have right now in Cleveland. So maybe I'm giving them too much credit. I don't know. But everything I've heard is that they're not in love with the quarterbacks in this class. They still have, as of this year, they've still got $90-some-odd million left to Deshaun Watson that's fully guaranteed. His cap hit this year is $72.9 million. This team's not going to be good. There's nothing you can do. Basically, Deshaun Watson right now is a dead cap charge of $73 million. That's not how you build around a young quarterback. If you put Cam Ward behind that, he might get killed. So I don't believe that's where they go. I don't believe that's where they should go. So I do have an issue with that off the jump. I don't love that pick, and I don't think that's where it's going to go. I understand looking at a team in Cleveland that needs a quarterback. Cam Ward's the best quarterback on the board. You put 2 and 2 together. Where I think everybody's undervaluing this is that I have not talked to a scout that has Cam Ward even in the top 10, let alone as an elite prospect. Yes, he's the best quarterback in the class, but this is starting to remind me of 2022, where the entire league doesn't like the quarterback class. So what happens? They fall much further than you think. I don't think the top 2 are going to fall that far. But I am stuck on what he did at 3. So we get to number 3. 3 is Travis Hunter. I don't hate it solely because I think Travis Hunter is an elite player. I just can't fathom a world where the Giants go into next year with a quarterback that's not either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I know that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are trying to save their jobs. I'm well aware of that. I can't figure out what exactly would you then do at quarterback. What's your path? Because Sam Darnold's not coming to New York. I don't care if it's with the Giants. I don't care if it's with the Jets. It doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. His time in New York was not a positive, and he does not see it as a positive. So, I look at him possibly in Tennessee. I look at him possibly with the Raiders. There are a handful of teams that make sense. The New York Giants just aren't one of them. So then you get to you look at their cap situation. They've got a little bit of cap space. They can actually get to a very little bit more with some restructuring if that's what they chose to do. But it's not going to be enough to go get a Matthew. The Matthew Stafford thing just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would Matthew Stafford want to do that? Why would the Rams want to do that? Why would the Giants give up the 3rd pick in the draft to do that for, 2 years of a quarterback? Maybe. And the team around him sucks. That's not all in. That's stupid. I mean, at some point, Wellington and John Mara have to come down and go, no, we're not going to let you do this. I don't see it as a possibility. I think a quarterback is going there at 3 to the New York Giants, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, whether it's Cam Ward. I think we get locked in sometimes to guys fighting for their jobs, and you think that means the owner's going to let you completely butcher his franchise. I don't see that here. So I did have an issue with Travis Hunter there at 3. Will Campbell to the Patriots at 4 makes all the sense in the world. The offensive line prospects in this class are very much beauties in the eye of the beholder. And if one more person tells me that Will Campbell can't play tackle solely because, his arms are short, hey, check how long Rashawn Slater's are. I know I've made that comparison 100 times. I laugh when we get to this point of people get so locked into things that they have thought forever, or they have. You do understand that everybody on an NFL field is getting smaller. So if, let's say Will Campbell has 32 and a half inch arms. Rashawn Slater's are only 33 inches. And we don't even know that. We don't even have a measurement on Will Campbell. There's nothing that would make me happier next week than that Will Campbell comes in, they put the stats up on the board because we all have an app and we can see them that get loaded as they come in. And he's got 34 and a half inch arms. Just so I can tell every person that's told me that to shut the hell up. Will Campbell's the best offensive lineman in this class. And he's very, very, very safe. So I have no problem with Will Campbell at 4. Mason Graham at 5 makes plenty of sense. Jaguars, I almost had him there in my original mock. I'm kind of locked on the Tet McMillan thing, who we're going to talk about him in a minute. But I understand it. Mason Graham at 5 to Jacksonville makes plenty of sense. Shedeur Sanders at 6 to the Raiders. Obviously, that makes plenty of sense. I fully believe that the 2 quarterbacks are going at 3 to the Giants and 6 to the Raiders. Can that change in the next 65 days? Sure. I don't see a way that it does, because I think the Titans are locked in on Abdul Carter. The Browns either trade down or take Travis Hunter, and then the rest of the draft falls that way, because the Jets aren't in love with either one of these guys. If the Jets take a quarterback at 7, it will be Jackson Dart, not Shedeur or Cam Ward. It's also really funny that now somebody high up in their front office, Rick Spielman, was an analyst for CBS Sports and basically said how much he loves Jackson Dart before he got the Jets job, which is a really nice insight into a very loud voice in that room. Speaking of the Jets, they pick at number 7, Tyler Warren. This is gaining a lot of steam, and I'm not really sure why. I'm really not. So I do look at this as Tyler Warren's an elite prospect to me, because I think he's one of the 10 best players in this class. And taking a tight end for a mediocre quarterback is something that I like. I guess I'm just looking at this board going, you're telling me you would take Tyler Warren over, I don't know, Will Johnson. You're going to lose DJ Reed, so who's going to be the other outside corner? I mean, do you think you're going to draft one in the 3rd round? Because I go ahead and tell you, good fucking luck with that. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. I get it. I don't mind the Tyler Warren going at 7 doesn't bother me in the least. I just think the scheme fit and the fit there is kind of clunky. Andres Pinckney also with a really great point. They hyped this up last year with Brock Bowers going to the Jets, and that was when they had a quarterback. Not a good one, but they had a quarterback. Randy Lutz with a really good point in our YouTube chat. Lawan Skoronski and Roger McCreary are all short arm guys that played for Tennessee and Vrabel, 2 of whom they drafted while he was there. Only 2 are offensive linemen, but arm length is key for a cornerback as well. That's a really good point by Randy Lutz. You have to remember, every brain trust in the NFL looks at everything differently. So if you see a team that has made it very fucking clear that they don't care about arm length, you should probably take that to heart. By the way, another thing that I want to say here, when you see a lot of us that are in this space, of which I'm nowhere near Daniel Jeremiah, but we do talk in a lot of the same circles. When you start seeing a guy going to a place, It's not because we're copying each other. It's because we all talk to the same people. So it's pretty easy because I'll go ahead and tell you the Will Campbell thing in Mobile, that's where this is coming from. Daniel Jeremiah has this in his mock for the same reason that I do, because a lot of us heard this as we were sitting around the concourse at the Senior Bowl, that New England really likes Will Campbell. They don't care about his short arms. They think he's a left tackle. They think he's the best player in this class. I mean, we heard all of this. How much of it's true? I don't know. But it's not that we're copying each other. It's that we all heard the same shit. That's a really good point from Randy Lutz. Tyler Warren, a little bit of a clunky fit for me at 7 with the Jets. I would not be upset with it in the least, but it is a strange fit. We get to the Carolina Panthers at 8, and they go Jalen Walker, which I'm not going to lie, I saw this and went, you're smoking crimes. And I immediately thought, okay, that means he doesn't like Mike Green. The only problem is that Mike Green then goes at 9 to the New Orleans Saints. You cannot tell me that a competent team that runs a 3-4 scheme is going to look at Jalen Walker ahead of Mike Green. Because there's a possibility that Jalen Walker ends up on the inside. And I get it. There's been talk that teams see him as a 3-4 outside linebacker. I get it. You're just getting into a lot of projection. I know Mike Green can get after quarterbacks. I don't know if he can cover to save his life. I'm also not really sure that I care, because I'm going to send him after quarterbacks. The comp on Mike Green is Brian Burns. Sounds pretty good to me. So that was really clunky to me. I see in the chat that Andreas Pinckney said Mike Green over Tet is very stupid. Tet's an interesting evaluation because I don't get consensus on him. And it always makes me nervous. This reminds me of Drake London when he came in, because I wasn't the only one that was in love with him. The problem is when it came to pulling the trigger, you had to find the right team to do it because they had to be okay with the fact that he's not super fast. I think Tet will be faster than Drake London was. It just depends on the team. I tend to agree with you. I would not take Mike Green over Tetairoa McMillan. I have Tet in my top 5. I also understand needing a pass rusher. I also understand falling in love with a guy. And I will tell you that there has been some smoke about New Orleans being one of the teams that really likes Mike Green. Randy Lutz asked, lots of smoke around Mike Green's exit from Virginia. Is there fire there? The short answer to your question is I don't know. But I'm bound and determined to find out. There are a handful of character guys in this class that next week in Indianapolis, come hell or high water, I'm going to find out where this is coming from. And Randy said it's a pattern of behavior dating back to high school about Mike Green. I haven't heard specifics. I feel like there's a lot of conjecture on Mike Green because something went wrong at Virginia. It also could just be that he was a freshman. He was a freshman. He didn't fit into their plans. Tony Elliott didn't want to play a freshman, and he didn't like that. So he transferred to Marshall. It could be that simple. I fully plan on finding out on James Pierce. I fully plan on finding out on Mike Green. And Randy said it has sounded like a domestic violence thing. Here's what I can tell you. If that is the case, I will know 1 week from now. Because the FBI guys that every one of these teams have involved, they find out all of this shit. Is it widely distributed? No. Can I find it out? Yes. That's why I said Jermaine Burton was an absolute untouchable for me last year. So, and Randy said to not go to another Power 5 school. That's not as actually untoward as you think. So Mike Green was not he wasn't a terrible prospect. I'm going to look at his 24/7 profile. I can't remember exactly where he was in terms of prospect. So he was a 3-star prospect. He was also a wide receiver. So that's another part of this. He converted to edge. Edge is where we obviously see absolutely the best out of him. He had played wide receiver and linebacker, if I remember correctly. He was a 3-star guy. So for him to not go to a Power 5, look, Virginia does not recruit at the same level that a lot of Power 5 schools do. So for him to go to Marshall is really that's not a factor to me. That makes sense. That math all maths. But now if there's domestic violence in his past, these guys will figure it out. Okay, let's see. Now we'll get back to the mock. Jalen Walker is a little clunky to me with Carolina. I think he goes in the top 16. I just don't think it's going to be that high. Mike Green, I have no problem with him going at 9. If the character issues, by the way, it should tell you something about the character on Mike Green, that Daniel Jeremiah, who is the most plugged-in person not named Adam Schefter, and Adam doesn't do mock drafts, the most plugged-in guy in drafting has him in the top 10. That should tell you pretty much everything you need to know. Because if he had heard those rumblings and thought there was any credence to it, he'd have pushed him down. But he didn't. 10 to the Chicago Bears, Kelvin Banks Jr. That's who I had in my mock. Makes all the sense in the world to me. Will Johnson at 11, that's his drop dead spot. So anybody that pushes him further down, I'll go ahead and tell you, there is, with Charvarius Ward getting out of San Francisco, the fit with Will Johnson in that Robert Saleh defense, there is literally less than zero chance that San Francisco would let him get past them. This is a deep draft for edge rushers, interior defensive linemen. I actually saw it at first and went, damn, that's low. And then I started thinking about it and went, it's possible that I like that fit better than I even like him with the Jets or with the Panthers. I still love the fit with both of those teams, but I really like the fit with San Francisco. He could be Sauce Gardner for Robert Saleh in San Francisco. So that to me is a really solid fit. We move on to number 12. This is where things started to get a little kooky madooky for me. Walter Nolan at 12 seems awfully high for a guy we were talking about in the second round just a few weeks ago. I also feel like this starts a slide on Ashton Jeanty that I can't see it happening. I can't see him falling as far as he does. We'll talk about that in a minute. In terms of Walter Nolan, I wouldn't object to him at 12 and having to replace Osa Odighizuwa, who's going to hit free agency. I get it. The thought of Walter Nolan and Micah Parsons on the same defensive line is quite intriguing to me. But I still look at that Cowboys team and go, well, what about the offense? You got all these players that can help your offense, and you go with another defensive player? That's a little hard for me to wrap my brain around. I love Walter Nolan. I just think that's a weird fit. Miami with Tyler Booker, same player I had. I do not love him. I do not understand what people see in him. Tyler Booker has become like the loser boyfriend, and I don't love this comparison because I've heard he's not a bad kid, but he's become like the loser boyfriend that your female friend dates, and you go, what the fuck do you see in him? Like, I don't get it. I don't get what the attraction is here. He's a good guard, and you're going to lose your shit to take him at 13? I even said that in the Dolphins mock draft video. I don't get this in any shape, form, or fashion. But that's the loudest team-to-player fit after the Senior Bowl that I've heard so far. That's why we all have it, is because we've all heard it 1,000 times. 14, Armin Mimbu to the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. Not really where I saw them going. I'm not saying that's not a need for Indianapolis, because on the right side, Braden Smith was not as good last year as he had been in years past. I think the line is a bit of a problem for Indianapolis. I also look at Braden Smith, though, as he didn't play the last 6 weeks of the season. It wasn't better when he wasn't there. So I think Indianapolis has a lot of problems, many of them tied to their quarterback. I'm in like with Armin Mimbu, not love. Randy Lutz said, is Booker the Kenyon Green of this draft? I'll be honest with you, Kenyon Green went at 13 as well, or 14, one or the other. I will find Tyler Booker equally perplexing to Kenyon Green. Because in terms of prospect, I have him as damn near the same guy. And I don't give a damn how good of a guy you are behind closed doors. If you're rallying the troops, none of that shit matters to me. You're not that good of a player. In the SEC, you were a mediocre guard. Or Randy, it was 15. Good call. You were a mediocre player in the SEC. You think that you're going to go to the NFL and get better? Because I don't. So it's bizarre to me. Armin Membo is a player that I like. He is. I think he would be a really good right tackle. I think he'd be an elite guard. The only thing about, I guess you replace Glowinski with him, slide him on the inside of Braden Smith. I don't hate that. I just feel like you've got bigger needs. That would also tell me you're planning on running the damn ball. Atlanta Falcons at 15, Mykel Williams. Mykel Williams may be the most confusing player in this draft class for me because I just don't know where he fits. I don't know what he's going to do. I know that Kirby Smart did not think enough of him as a standing edge to use him in any situation where he had any form of option. That made me look at him as a 4-3 edge. Is that the most scientific process you've ever seen? No. But it also makes a ton of sense. If a guy that's been around this kid for all his time at Georgia looked at him and said, you're good, and I would like to really play you off the ball, and he played 6 snaps off the ball. 6 in 3 years at Georgia. That kind of tells me everything I need to know. Especially when they play a system that's so multiple and these guys come into the NFL so damn NFL ready. I just don't see it. I don't think he's a great pass rusher. I think he's a physical freak. This falls into that Vernon Golston thing for me. I don't buy it. I think he's going to end up falling. And that feels a little high to me. Now we get to a point where I think Red C's head may have exploded when the Arizona Cardinals took Kenneth Grant at 16. I'm really, really curious to hear his response to that, and I know he's in the chat. I don't dislike Kenneth Grant as a player. I think he could be a really good zero tech in the league. I think he can be a really good player in the league on the whole. I also don't think he's nearly a finished enough product to take at 16. That feels like a super raw player that you're going to throw in the middle of a team that needs Arizona needs ready to play guys. I don't think Kenneth Grant is a ready to play 40 to 50 to 60 snap a game guy. Red Sea with our first super chat of the day. I totally forgot to pull up my sounds. Just so you know, I can't hear those, so I'm hoping they go off. Red Sea said, "Oh yeah, when I saw it, I was pissed." You were actually the first person I thought of when I saw that. I cannot imagine he saw that and was happy. I feel like Kenneth Grant would be a really good selection in the second round, and that's where I have him going. Now, could a team fall in love with him if he blows it up at the combine? Maybe, but even then, I still think that's high for him. I had him in the beginning of the second round, and I can't take that at 16. Not in a class that's this good to me in this tier. 17, the Cincinnati Bengals take Jahdae Barron. I think we're falling so in love with this Brian Branch move player, C.J. Gardner-Johnson role that we're just shoehorning it into every team's got to have one. I don't see this fit at all. And look, I like Jahdae Barron. I like him to specific places. We had him with the Buffalo Bills in the listener mock that we did, a week ago. And I'm good with that. I think he would be a great player for the Bills. The Bengals have bigger issues, and I feel like if they take Jahdae Barron at 17, that means they're going to plan on playing him on the outside, and I don't like that at all. He's really short for an outside corner, and the tape on him is just not as impressive as everybody makes it out to be. And, oh, by the way, that move piece, you already have one of those. His name's Dax Hill. So I hate that fit just gruesomely. Don't hate the player. Don't hate the team. I just hate the fit with the player to the team. All right, we move on here to number 18. Seattle Seahawks take Gray Zabel. I thought I was high on him. That's really high. Seattle does not tend to take offensive linemen this high. They took Charles Cross this high. It was actually higher than this. Other than that, they have not really, interior offensive linemen, they have never invested this kind of capital. So that would tell me they think he can play on the right and they want the scheme versatility. I'm good with taking him that high. I think Daniel Jeremiah said 5 position flexibility. I would tend to lean that it's more 4. I don't know that he can play left tackle. I'm not going to say he absolutely can't. I don't project him that way. I think he's a right tackle or an interior player. I can't imagine Seattle taking a guard, a right tackle at 18. The more I've thought about it, that's just not their MO. They tend to take higher value positions. Now, where do I think they would go right there? That's a little harder for me, just solely because I've got a mock draft coming for Seattle that I have them taking an offensive lineman. It's not a guy that I think, but I don't think he profiles as only an interior player. And there's part of me that thinks that you see that with Gray Zabel. He was really good at the Senior Bowl. He was great on the right side, and I definitely think this reminds me of Graham Barton. I think you would be an elite interior player. I think you would be a serviceable tackle, even a good tackle, just not an 18th pick in the draft. John Carmen said he's expecting Seattle to go defensive line in the first. That wouldn't shock me. That was actually what I was getting ready to say is I feel like they need an edge rusher. I just also feel like they have invested a lot into edge rushers. I also really like Boye Mafe, who has started to come on in Seattle. Kenneth, that's another spot, actually. Kenneth Grant, I wouldn't hate Kenneth Grant right there. I would also, there are several guys that I like in that role that profile better the second, third round. So I'm just kind of looking at I'm reading the tea leaves get there going, that Gray Zabel pick doesn't make a ton of sense. 19 is where we've gone full kooky Madookie. Teteroa McMillan falls to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you're telling me the Mike Evans clone you're going to take after you have already invested draft capital in Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan and all of these other guys you got. You're going to take a wide receiver, and you're going to be the team that stops his fall. I can't imagine he gets to 19. That's insanity to me. And I have heard that he may not go as high as I'm thinking, but I'm just looking at teams up in front of them. If Teteroa McMillan was on the board at 14, is there any chance that the Indianapolis Colts wouldn't take him? That kind of talent falling to you right there. Teteroa McMillan bypassing the Dallas Cowboys. If they're not in love with Ashton Jeanty, they let Tet McMillan get by them? The San Francisco 49ers, who, yes, they've only done that one time in the last however many years. It's been a while. But you're going to let Tet McMillan get by you? It's just the Saints, even the Jets, the Panthers. There's just a lot of places that I feel like he lands. And I cannot imagine that he gets to 19. Question in the chat, is Teteroa McMillan too skinny? Not to me. I mean, he's really, really tall. And he's not crazy fast at 210. So I'm not necessarily sure that I would want to add bulk to the frame. But I wouldn't be against it. As long as it doesn't slow him down considerably more, he could bulk up 10 pounds, and I don't think it changes much. I just don't really want him to get any heavier than that. Detroit fan man said, never heard this term, kooky Madookie, before, and I think it could be its own standalone segment, thinking about merch opportunities. we figured out that I have a lot of weird turns of phrase when we started doing draft content a few years ago. Couldn't play dead in a Western. That was one that I did not realize that was not as common of a term as I didn't know people didn't. That wasn't a common phrase. Blows dead bears, also one that I've gotten a lot of people that go, could you run that by me one more time? What was that, by the way? So, but yes, Kooky Madookie is Matt Penn said we still need Moron King merch. That's a good one. I would love to do merch things. I'm not, that's not really my wheelhouse. I've tried to do it in the past and it's a lot, but we do have a few new people working for us now. So that may be something that we invest in after the combine, is looking into doing some merch things. In the chat, feel free to comment what merch you would personally want to wear of the show. We've already seen the Moron King, All Hail the Mullet King, Kooky Madookie. Matt Penn said he has merch ideas galore. You and I need to talk. Because I'm not going to lie to you, I don't. The off-the-wall things that Tank and I say, we talk so often that it's not off the wall to me anymore. So I'm totally in. Alex S. said IQ above salad dressing. And far superior. And Andres Pinckney said that the Daniel Jeremiah mock draft goes off the rails at 7. I went off the rails at number 19, talking about how Tedero McMillan's never going to be there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 20, Colston Loveland. That's who I had in my first mock right after the season was over, so that one makes plenty of sense. I have no qualms with that. I think he's a perfect fit in Denver. Then we get to Kooky Madookie number 2. Ashton Jeanty at 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to make this perfectly clear. If Ashton Jeanty gets to 21 in this draft class, I will take a sock off my foot at Radio Row and eat it. Because there is zero possibility of this happening. Absolutely zero. Even understanding how devalued running backs are in this class with this number of teams that need a running back, after the year of the running back and you get one for cheap, there's zero possibility of it. I have never seen a pick in a Daniel Jeremiah mock that I went, what? More than 19 and 21 in this one. Absolutely insane. Insane to me for him to get down there. 22, Amarian Hampton to the Chargers. That's the same player I have going to the Chargers, so I'm good with that. Josh Simmons to the Packers. I had Josh Simmons going to the Packers in my first mock. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't remember where he goes in this one. I can't remember. I know he goes. I just can't remember to who. Then we get to Kooky Madookie number 3. The Minnesota Vikings take Trevion Henderson in the first round. So let me get this straight. You devalue the really good running back, the I think bell cow running back, and then you take a situational piece at 24. That doesn't make any sense to me. I have Trevion Henderson in the 3rd round because I don't, and it's not even that I don't like the talent. I think he's a piece of a committee. I don't see bell cow there. I think he has bell cow tendencies, but it should tell you everything you need to know that Ohio State had Trevion Henderson and went, we need to invest more money in Quinshaw Judkins because we don't think he can hold up to the down in, down out. And if you don't think there's a merit to that, I've been using that formula for basically since NIL came along. It's almost undefeated of guys that high-end Power 5 teams have not felt the urge to completely commit to. They get to the NFL and you see their flaws real fast. I'm not saying I don't think Trevion Henderson's a good player. I don't think he's I don't think he's a first-round pick by any stretch of the imagination. Red Sea with another super chat. Pittsburgh just getting out from a first-round running back who was outshined by what they had. Why not risk doing it again? I'm not going to lie, that crossed my mind too. In the Cowboys mock draft, I even made the reference to when Pittsburgh took Najee Harris. That was a pick that just made so much sense that I couldn't figure out how it wasn't going to happen. We had Najee Harris to the Pittsburgh Steelers in every mock draft we did that year except one, and that's how I'm going to treat Ashton Jeanty this year with the Cowboys. I can't see how Jerry Jones lets one of the stars of college football bypass him at the biggest position of need on that team. So that's a really good comment from Red Sea. Gomaha said, watch the Saints take Jeanty at 9. I've actually had several Saint fans that have wanted that, which surprised me a little bit. Houston Texans take Emeka Ibuka at 25. No qualm there because that's exactly who I have them taking. Los Angeles Rams at 26, Darius Alexander. Okay, that's I'm going to say a little overreactionary to what we saw in Mobile. And look, Darius Alexander was really good day 2 and day 3. Day 1 started off a little slow. Nobody has a qualm with the raw talent of Darius Alexander. The problem is that the pad level tends to get a little high. And so he's a bit more of a project than people think, at least if you're going to take him this high. That seems high to me. He's in my top 50-ish. I can't remember exactly where he landed. I like him a lot, but 26 seems awfully rich, especially considering all of the guys that are still on the board that could play that position. Now, I will say this. I do really like the idea of Darius Alexander in that role. I do like the idea of him playing that 3-4 defensive end role. Not to the point that I have moved him yet, but I will tell you I'm considering it. As of right now, and I'm trying to get to my rankings here to tell you where I have him. As of right now, I have Darius Alexander as my number 1, 2, 3, 4. He's my number 6, 3 tech. He would probably be my number 3, 5 tech behind Skirton and Shamar Stewart. Just ahead of Landon Jackson. Red Sea said Darius went from a day 3 guy to apparently a first rounder over just a course of a few practices. I never thought that Darius Alexander was going in day 3. I always thought that was lunacy. Alexander was one of the guys that I mentioned in the lead up to the Senior Bowl of guys that could go in there and really blow it up. And I know the Rams like small school guys, which Randy Lutz pointed out there. I don't think you can take him that high. I'm trying to see now where I had him in the mock. And of course, he went to San Francisco. I was about to say, and of course, Google does not make it easier for me to find. I had him go in the beginning of the 3rd round in San Francisco. I will probably bump him up to the back end of the 2nd round in the 2nd mock that happens after the Senior Bowl. And the Rams don't have a pick there. They pick at 90 and 100 and then 26. So, I mean, if they're really in love with him, they would have to take him there. But that just feels high for me. Detroit fan man, what's the over under on Hurtons for a skirtin'? Oh my God. Now that is a shirt. A Hurtin' for a skirtin'. That is tremendous. God, I love you people. That's chef's kiss. And now I'm going to say that every single time I say his name. We roll on with the last 6 picks of Daniel Jeremiah's mock. Shamar Stewart to the Baltimore Ravens. That makes all the sense in the world, and I loved his explanation. Stewart just feels like a Raven to me. He's big and explosive and disruptive. The problem is the last 4 words that he said. The production will come. Then why hasn't it come before? I do not Shamar Stewart makes my brain hurt because I can't figure out why are you this good and you're not productive really at all. But I have no problem with Shamar Stewart at 27 of the Baltimore Ravens. They'd probably turn him into an absolute star. 28, Donovan Jackson to the Detroit Lions. I have a feeling that he's going to be a player that I have to absolutely calm people down on. I don't think he's first-round talent. And when I say I don't think he's first-round talent, I don't really think he's all that close to a first-round talent. I also don't 100% see what it is that people are seeing in him. He had one really legitimately good game last year. It was against Marshall. He played well at left tackle, having to fill in for Josh Simmons, and he has positional versatility. He's just not that good. I mean, for me, he's the back end of the second, beginning of the third round guy. And if it wasn't for the versatility, he'd be a back end of the third round guy. I don't understand. The guards in this class are making no sense to me. If you want a guard, go get Armin Mimbu, go get Gray Zabel, go get Marcus Mbow. The standard guards are not good. And to that point, I'm going to go back and look at my numeric grades here. The highest guard that I have, other than Will Campbell, which I did evaluate him as a guard, and that's broad spectrum across 32 teams, because I think more teams would evaluate him as a guard than a tackle. Doesn't mean he can't play tackle. Just my highest rated guard is Tyler Booker, who I have right on the fringe of the third round. Marcus Mbow's right behind him. Jonas Avanea is a little bit behind them. I don't love this interior line class at all because center is bad. But it's and I know that his offensive line coach is in Arizona now. I have thought that he would make a lot of sense in Arizona. He would just have to fall where I think he makes sense, and I'm not sure that's going to happen. And Randy Lutz with a good point that his play actually speaks more to Fry's ability to coach offensive linemen than it does Donovan Jackson. I can't disagree with that at all. I can't disagree with that. That's a really good point. Washington Commanders at 29, Jahad Campbell. You know that I'm not a big Jahad Campbell fan. Now, I will say this. The thought of him playing edge changes him a little bit to me. I don't think he's a great middle linebacker, and I'm not going to lie to you. I don't helmet scout, but the history of Alabama linebackers in the NFL is not great, especially under Saban. A lot of these guys get to the NFL, and they just never develop into shit. They are who they are. And before you give me examples, I want you to look at what year the guy you're about to tell me about was drafted. Because I'll bet you the first three numbers are 200. It bothers me. I don't think Jahad Campbell's an elite prospect. I am intrigued by the thought of moving him to edge, though. And as Jeremiah said, when he's allowed to rush, he flashes elite potential. I do agree with that. But I don't think he's a great down in, down out, every down linebacker. Matthew Golden at 30 to the Buffalo Bills. We discussed him when we did the listener mock. I have no qualms with that. I think he would be a good deep threat for them. I've even heard him comped to Stephon Diggs more than once. So there's nothing wrong with that. Perfectly fine with it. 31, Josh Connerly Jr. to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that would be a match made in heaven. Allows Joe Thuney to move back into guard. My only question is, what are you going to do with Kingsley Suamataia now? Does he move over to the right side with the intention of taking over Jawan Taylor? Do you move him inside the guard, which there were a lot of teams that thought he was a guard last year to potentially replace Trey Smith? That's an interesting pick to me, and what's interesting to me is not necessarily his fit, because he fits Kansas City very nicely. It's the dominoes that would fall behind it. And then finally, of course, because this is what they do, Philadelphia sits at 32 and takes Malachi Starks. Because of fucking course they do. We cannot allow this to happen. I also look at this and go, James Pierce is not in the top 32, and that's insanity to me. And before anybody tells me about the red flags, I have heard about all of the character red flags with James Pierce. I got it. Unless there is something, damn it. I cued the camera again. Nope. Moving the wrong way. Damn it! Oh, that damn camera is going to be the absolute death of me. James Pierce is a first-round talent, and he is so unbelievably good that the talent's going to outweigh the character at some point. He ain't getting out of the first round unless something comes out that is way worse than anything I've heard. And I'm not telling you that can't happen. Just saying something would have to be way worse than what I've heard on JPJ for him not to be a first-rounder. Okay, I'm going to ask a question now in the chat. We're going to do a Q&A draft something tonight. I've got a lot to do with logistics with everything that's happening with Tank, so I need to get out of here. What time would a live stream tonight work for you guys? And please do me a favor and put that in as Eastern Standard Time. And Bob Brown, I agree with you. If James Pierce Jr. was there at 32, Howie Roseman would absolutely lose his fucking mind. Chaz Johnson, yes, I do. I need that Bessie backdrop. I need Bessie like right here. I'm seeing a lot of 8 p.m. Eastern time. That was one of the times that worked perfectly for me because that means I could have dinner with my wife, who is an absolute warrior. All hail Mullet Queen during the draft process because I spend so much time back here. She works at home and we just see each other like passing each other in the hall. It's wild. It's looking like 8 Eastern is the universal. I saw 9. I saw a couple 7:30s. And 8 is splitting the difference there. Matt Penn said we need Tiara Cal. I've got to find one of those. What I may do is have a funny AI one made. And just have that printed at like a Staples on a canvas or something, because we do need that. That's going to be in the shadow box from this year's Senior Bowl. I also have a slew of jerseys sitting over here in my office that I don't really know where to put up. So, let's see. Alex S. asks, "How do you not have small scale animations done of you and Tank? Can we get someone to do it?" I'd totally be in for it. Somebody doing like, a caricature of us. I cannot draw at all. So that is why I have never done it, but I'm totally open to somebody else doing it. Jack S. said, all hail Mullet Queen. I want to see her picks. Oh, that would be fun to get her to do a mock draft. Mainly because she would be doing it almost exclusively off the shit that she has heard me rail about. Let me tell you how scouting goes in this house a lot. I have a tablet. I watch film on the tablet. I watch film in here in my office as well. But I will watch just random tape and just fall in love with things. I'm like, hell yeah. And then I'll go on a 5 to 10 minute rant about a guy. That's what she knows about the draft. And I would be curious if she could do a mock. That could be a lot of fun. Bill Workman said a Mullet Queen mock draft would be one for the record books. I'll talk to her today and see if that's something she would be willing to do. It would also probably be the highest rated mock draft we've ever done because she is way better looking than me. There are so many small time artists in Asheville. I feel very sure somebody would do it. I just don't know who that would be. I wouldn't even know where to start, but I do believe we could get that done. Alex says, can we get Miss Richard Tank and Miss Mullet Queen to do a sports show for as long as possible until it devolves, of course. Mrs. Richard Tank and Mrs. Mullet Queen would devolve into probably talk of weird shows they watch because they both get irked that Tank and I don't enjoy watching the vampire-y bullshit shows that they do. So that would probably turn into a television discussion show or movies or something like that. That would devolve into that quick. Because Mrs. Richard Tank loves Georgia football and does not love much else of football. But she does know some of her stuff, though. And Miss Mullet Queen knows what she's talking about as well. One last question before I get out of here. It looks like we're going to be doing 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight On the character stuff, is anyone worried about Abdul Carter's temper issues, or is that all in the past now? That fell into a maturity that has not seemed to be a problem anymore. So I'm not going to say it's not a problem. It's on my list of things just to kind of check off, but it's not something that's actively worrying me. Andrew Adams, buddy of mine's dad, works at a dealership in Knoxville, worked on James Pierce's car. Apparently his, I don't know what that is, reeked of weed. Weed means so little to NFL teams at this point. Like, it is mind-boggling how little teams care about that. We know. There are guys in the NFL that I can tell you straight up. I can't tell you how I know this, but I can tell you that I know they burn a lot of the cannabis. And not the least of that has to do with the fact that the other side of this coin may have, it'll be in my book one day. I'm going to write a book that will be released upon my death, and I will release that story in it. Let's see. Alex S., do you think there are trade possibilities if the Cowboys come to 8 to get Jeanty? I don't. I do not. I think there's no doubt that teams will want to trade down. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of – I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest in trading up. In teams that want to trade up. And Detroit fan man, this will be our last comment of this live stream. I kind of assume some teams already have a grow room just to be efficient. That would not go well if it was found out, but it does seem very, very, very efficient. Okay, that was 53 minutes when I meant to go about 35. Basically, whatever amount of time I say, you should just add roughly 50% to it, because that's about how long I'm going to go. I'm Jeremy Green of ESPN Radio Asheville. This has been Mock the Mock. Daniel Jeremiah. Overall, I think DJ's the best mock drafter in the business. I went back and looked. I have not loved his first and second one over the last few years. We just didn't do Mock the Mock for all of them. So I don't have like a video I can point you to where we did this. This falls about in line with what he does. And by the time we get to the draft, he tends to be as accurate as anybody in the business. I love DJ. Great guy. Does a conference call for people like us just to get us up to date every single week during the draft season. He's a great, great dude. I'm Jeremy Green at ESPN Radio Asheville and NFLDraft.net. Check us out at NFLDraft.net. A lot of Bill Workman content going up on the website today. Apologies that hasn't gone up yet. The tank foot injury it's pushed me behind a little bit. But we'll get that up today, and we'll see you tonight, 8 Eastern time, for a NFL Draft Q&A live stream with me. So I will see you tonight.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in clean? my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell. I wanna taste consumption. Breathe faster to waste oxygen. Hear the children sing aloud. It's music till the wick burns out. Be carefree lately, yeah. Just kicking up daisies. Got one too many quarters in my pockets. Counting like the four-leaf clovers in my locket. Untied laces, yeah. Just tripping on daydreams. Got dirty little lullabies playing on repeat. Might as well just ride around the nursery and count sheep.